Hi, and thank you for joining me on a very special edition of Three Guys and One Gal and a Lot of Wine. I'm joined by some great guests for this episode. I have G, the manager from the Bottle Stop. And I have, of course, our regulars now, which are Rocky and Sandy Holland, moderators of West Hartford Wine Club. And thank you all for coming in. I'm looking forward to this show because I see 5 bottles on the table and I'm drooling. So, Sandy, I'm going to let you take over from there.
So we are here tonight to promote a company that I work for. It's called Norcom. We have a charity division called Norcom Cares. And every year, Norcom Cares hosts a beer and wine tasting. This year, the beer and wine tasting is going to be at the North House in Avon. All the proceeds that we gather, we donate back to local and national charities. So we have donated to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. We've donated to Food Share, Gifts of Love, which is a charity in Avon. We're really excited about the event. We're thrilled that it's going to be at the North House in Avon. I think that's,
And Mr. G here supplies the wine.
Supplies the wine.
That's right.
Which we're all eager to hear about.
He's supplying the wine for us. He's from the Bottle Stop, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about the wine and what we're going to be doing.
What's our
at
first
the
gem
event.
tonight? Then,
Well,
G?
so, a little more on the tasting. We've got a great lineup of stuff. I think it's going to be, somewhere over 40 wines. And the concept of it and what we've kind of replicated here today is that we're going to have, just in time for Valentine's, a little bit of sweet and a little bit of sparkling, because I think that those are two awesome either wine choices, and if you're going to go big and go with a bottle of each, those are great to have on a day like Valentine's Day. And so also on the tables at this event, we're going to have 3 selections. So in between your sweet and in between your sparkling, you're going to have 3 different wines that you could try. And I've brought out a couple of those selections today.
So these are some samples that will be at the event.
Exactly. So all of these wines will be featured in addition to another 25 or 30 on top of this, as well as some beer and some other fun stuff. So.
And I will be posting all these varietals on my social media page, so stay tuned for that. But thanks again for bringing these in. I'm looking forward to tasting them.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So for me, the first wine we have in our glass here today is D'Arenberg. Great producer. They've been at it since the early 1900s. They're down in Australia in a really cool spot in southeastern Australia called McLaren Vale. So Australia kind of went through this really interesting period where there was a lot of American fanaticism about the wines because they were big and opulent and had this really good kind
started
of
by Yellowtail.
Yeah, well, they got
Craze.
the door open, and of course, like anything else, that's you need a gateway. For experimentation on the higher end, you got to have something that kind of just lets the activity start to happen and people to build knowledge and awareness about a country that does something. I think that's also what kind of holds back other countries like Greece and some of the wines that they produce there. They don't have any front runners here that kind of build that.
It's funny you should mention that. I actually did a show on Greek wine maybe 3 or 4 months back, maybe 5 months back. And you're right, there's not a lot of knowledge of Greek wines, and the wines that we had on the show were absolutely delicious.
They're outstanding, but the reason why most people don't think of them is because they're not talked about
They're
in
not.
everyday conversations. And,
Yep.
though they could be, and you don't necessarily need to spring for a lot of money to get a good bottle of Greek wine, when you start getting into some of the better productions of the world, you typically are going to be between 10 and, well, let's put it this way, north of $10. That's where some of the world's most interesting wines really start to come around. And you need something that kind of gets people into a country and gets talking about them at large. And then you find
this price point in this particular one?
This one's under $15. So D'Arenberg's Hermit Crab. This is one of my favorite white wines to serve with friends and family at a table. It goes well with a variety of foods. It doesn't matter the season. A lot of folks are looking to get away from Chardonnay because it's just the oak monster that people
And too
are
cloying.
tired of.
I find it too cloying. This is not cloying at all. This is delicious.
But it's rich, right? It's got texture. It's
Yeah.
got this
Very
nice
rich,
volume
yeah.
on the palate, right? It's got grip, and then the flavors too, right? So it's definitely got some elements that you can find in oaky, creamy Chardonnay. There's elements of stone fruit, peach, and there's an appley note to this. But then there's also this really great spicy cut of ginger paste.
It's the spiciness, and this is really a flavor burst. I mean, there's so much going on your first sip. It fills up the whole palate. It
Yeah.
fills up the jaws on the side.
Tastes it in,
Everything that a good wine's supposed to do, it does in the first sip, right off the bat, which is great for a white, and it's certainly not overly sweet, which I do not like at all.
Absolutely.
This is perfect.
It's a good acid wine. It definitely cleanses away on the palate, and that's what makes it go good with food, right?
And even at just a little bit slight temperature higher than room temperature, still delicious.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And gee, I would probably say you probably wouldn't even recommend serving that too cold, right?
You know what? I would put that out, I would put that in the fridge and maybe pull it out 10, 15 minutes before you serve it, right? So without getting into temperature ranges or anything else like that, whether your fridge is set at 35 or 36 at home, just pull it out of the fridge 10, 15 minutes early, pour everyone a glass. It's going to warm up when it's in your glass and in your hand. So, right around there, you're going to find that there's that balance between aromatic vivacity as well as that nice forward sumptuous fruit that you're going to get in this wine.
And before we even get to the second one, I wanted to ask another question about the event. How many people do you normally expect for the event over the past?
We try to plan between 100 and 150. So, and tickets are available online, or you can go to the Norcom Cares website.
And that's an awesome cause. Really, what are we asking people to do? Come out and taste a bunch of
Come
really
out and
good
drink
wine.
wine.
It's
Right.
tough. It's
Eat
tough to
some-
do,
Eat
but
some good past hors d'oeuvres.
Life is tough.
it beats doing a 22-mile race for the charity. It's
Right.
better to go out and
We're
drink
just gonna
something
go
for the
drink some
charity.
beer
I'll
and
take
wine.
that any
They
day.
do that as well.
Oh, they
but
do?
We
Okay,
stick
well,
to the wine.
yeah, I agree with you there.
We actually live right next to where they do the race.
They
and
do the
we're-
Mitten Run every
We go in
year,
with
yeah.
the dogs and watch them run by.
Yeah,
With our wine in our hand. No, it's not
Sweet,
anymore,
yeah.
actually, we don't do that.
Well, thumbs up on the first one, G.
Yeah.
Very
Thank you
good.
very much. What's the alcohol content on roughly this particular wine? I know sometimes my viewers like to know that.
So that's around 14%, probably 13.5, I would say, is best guess. Well, it's a warm climate, and sometimes they'll put it on the label and it's accurate, but it's right here it says 13.5. So,
Oh, wow.
they're allowed.
That's a little high.
That's actually kind of low for southeastern Australia. though.
Exactly.
Oh, that is low.
Exactly.
Yeah, for,
Interesting.
It's typically
Warmer
high,
climate.
warmer climate. It's going to get more, but it's good wine.
Yeah. I think it hides it well, too. It is rich and it is full, but it does hide it well.
It's interesting seeing a Rhone blend and the difference in flavor that you get from those same Rhone varietals in France versus Australia. Australia's, a little hotter.
I find that you get a lot more minerality in the French counterparts, right? So New World, they tend to really exaggerate the fruit flavor profiles in
Yeah,
wine.
you're right.
And the Old World counterparts usually, that's what a New World wine fan will slam those of the Old World for, and that's what New World fans will slam those of the New World for.
Yeah.
Right? There's too much fruit in this wine. There's too much earth in
Yeah.
this wine.
Well, we all love each other.
That's right.
We like to fight.
That's right. That's right.
So, Bob, have you been trying to get into this one the whole time? Have you been drooling?
I
over
have
this
been.
one?
I've all through the summer even. I've been a big, as you know, on rosés.
Big into bubbles,
Big on
too.
sparkling rosés also because I find them so overly refreshing for all types of occasions. I have not had this one. I've not seen this one. I must confess, I have not been to your shop yet, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
But
No one's perfect.
please tell me about this one.
So Grant Beck, really cool producer. South African wines, you talk about New World regions. South Africa's history here in the United States has not been a very long one in terms of its vinous availability. Ever since the apartheid, wrapped up, they basically have started bringing in all their great producers here. And, like anything else, it started with KWV and all these big, massive brands that, were not necessarily the thought leaders of producing great wine in South Africa. And over the past 10 years, I want to say it's really been interesting because the best producers are now starting to come to the forefront. Grant Beck is one such producer. They make a whole host of great wines on their properties. And this right here is a great example of just really good method champenois, meaning the style in which they make the bubbles appear in your wine is exactly the same code, or if you will, standard that they have in Champagne, France, but it's being done in South Africa. And for me, pink is in. It's a hot topic right now, whether it's in still or sparkling, and I think Grant Beck crushes it. This stuff's delicious. It delivers, this really nice, soft strawberry, crushed raspberry characteristic on the nose. There's also a beat of minerality. It's floral. And on the palate, there's tremendous tension, right? The acidity just kind of pinches you on the sides of your tongue. It's just a fun wine.
I got to say, it's a good thing I'm married. I'd be having an affair with that bottle right now.
Yeah, right.
That is probably one of the better sparkling.
Lucky Carrie's not.
Yes, one of the better sparkling rosés I've had this year. And I've had quite a few. That just satisfies everything I'm
really
looking
good.
for in a rosé.
Yeah.
Sparkling. That is really something.
Kind of screams Valentine's Day, doesn't it?
Well, so I have advice. I remember coming up with this line, right? So to me, I feel like if I can summarize the reasons why people like to or should buy a wine, it makes it easier on the store floor, right? So hold the hallmark, guys. Don't spend that $10 on this crazy, lace-ridden card that's going to find a way to properly showcase your emotion for the one that you love. Forget that stuff. Go straight to a product like this, where the winemaker, the vineyard owner, people that are actually intensely passionate about producing a high-quality product end up delivering that in your glass. And that, to me, is far more sentimental than, a card where they're probably, relying on a factory of writers to come up with. You're not going to find the proper way to confess your love to your significant other on a day like Valentine's Day. And I feel like wine does it better than anything else.
And as the only woman here tonight, who is also here with my husband, I would say that I agree.
See?
Yes.
Take note.
Well, we know what'll be on the table for our Valentine's Day.
There you
Well,
go.
the thing is, like you were saying, G, is,
African
you know, don't
rosé
just go buy a
sparkling.
bottle of Andre or something like that. The price point of this is probably, what, in the 20s?
Yeah, exactly. Between 20, 25 bucks.
And it's just so much better. I mean, it's hard sometimes to put into words when you're watching a show about wine, whether it's this show or another show. Because you're watching us and we're tasting the wine, sometimes it's hard to get the feeling of how good something can be. But this is a classic example for me who loves rosés and loves the sparkling. It just satisfies everything that you're looking for when you take a sip of wine. It doesn't have a cheap taste. It doesn't have like an acidic taste. Not a,
'Cause this is made properly. The
Yeah, it's
traditional
really,
method
really
is the-
delicious,
is the
and
way
that's-
to go with sparkling.
that's-
When you find one from an obscure region that you're not used to seeing sparkling wine come from, that's a great find.
Right. And there's a lot of them out there. We just need to kind of take the blinders off. And, you know, Prosecco's fun. It's definitely a little less stuffy. It's a little more casual and laid back. You can cocktail with Prosecco a little more easily. Champagne, you hear champagne and, you know, I don't know, dollar bills start to ring in my ears and you think to yourself, well, how much am I going to spend on champagne? And don't get me wrong, there's moments in time that I feel like I want to splurge on great bottles of champagne, but, you know, Valentine's Day, you know, sometimes you do want it to be a quick bottle of something bubbly after you went out for a great meal. Maybe you already drank a really great bottle of wine and, you know, this is just a fun way to end the night or have a precursor to the way you're going to end the night.
and a lot of people forget that they think of champagne and they want something expensive. Well, it's French.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of yeast. You're going to get a lot of minerality to it. You might not get the refreshing aspect of a $100 bottle of champagne that you might think you're going to get. You're
Right.
going to get a good flavor profile, which isn't going to be for everybody.
Right.
But you're not going to get something that could be overly refreshing. It's going to be a little bit that French terroir, a little bit definitely. I know, Sandy, that bread smell, that yeastiness,
I
and that's
always
not for
smell bread.
everybody. And a lot of people who don't know champagne say, "Oh yeah, I have to have an expensive bottle of champagne," and they take their first sip, they don't like it.
Yeah.
So.
I would argue that a majority of great bottles of champagne that are opened up on a regular basis might be way too early. You know, I would say that the number of people that open up Dom Perignon that spend $200 on a bottle of Dom, they pop the cork, they pour a glass, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm drinking a great bottle of champagne." But I feel like, yeah, $200 gets you a good champagne, but you don't know why you spent the $200 unless you put that bottle away for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because aged Dom, you'll see why it cost you $200.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last time, non-vintage versus vintage sparkling. You know, when you get to the vintage sparkling, that's when the prices start going up.
Yeah, I don't buy a lot of vintage sparkling because my
champagne,
financial
vintage
advisor does not allow it. So I'm a big non-vintage
That's the
guy.
best line of the night so far.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thumbs up. What do we got going next?
So to Tuscany we go. So we're going to a new world producer, or at least, sorry, I should say a new world product from an old world producer. That's probably a better way to put it. So we head to Tuscany, and in the southern reaches, inland in Tuscany, is a little appellation called Montepulciano. The region, not the grape, because there's both, right? So in Tuscany, you've got these really great classical zones, Chianti Classico, Brunello, just a couple of them. And then, of course, Montepulciano. Majority of the vineyards there are going to be Sangiovese, just like the other two regions that I had mentioned prior. And so this estate, Avignonesi, makes some really good Vino Nobile de Montepulciano, and this all leads up to why this wine is so awesome. And that wine's, you know, $30 a bottle. It's a reference point wine. They've got 500 acres. They make this awesome product of it. But they've got a couple of experimental vineyards where they've planted some international varietals, where they're just having fun. And they've taken off the restrictions that lie in that zone, and they're essentially saying, you know, we just want to see what we can do, and whether we can create something that's new or exciting or interesting. You know, a movement that's really, you know, I want to say taken hold in Tuscany and a lot of other regions. And it's great to see an old world producer like Avignonesi do this. You've got a wine here that completely breaks from conventional wisdom. It's a super Tuscan, as we can call it, meaning that it doesn't adhere to any DOCG laws. You've got a combination of Cabernet, Merlot, and Sangiovese. So you got the traditional varietal in there with a couple of other Bordeaux varietals. And you've got what I think is an awesome, you know, Tuesday night wine, right? So we're talking
Great
about,
color. Yeah, great color.
Delicious stuff. Fruity, fresh. It's got a hint of earth. It's got a hint of floral elements. It's got this, you know, worn leather, rose petal characteristic to the wine, but it's also got a nice, deep, rich core of fruit that just says, drink me.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Super Tuscans for the money. Super Tuscan, Côte de Rhône, and an occasional Central Coast Pinot Noirs are the best value for the buck
Yeah.
that you can get.
Agreed. I like the Rhone. To echo that sentiment, the Rhone is a great spot for good wine for relatively bargains.
Yeah.
This is another classic example of a really well done Italian wine that fits all the characteristics that I look for in Italian. He said this is in the $30 price point. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is only under
Yeah.
$15 a
Oh,
bottle.
this one's under 15.
Yeah, typically Super
Yeah.
Tuscans are
Yeah, they're usually
great
higher
bargain.
than that.
Yeah.
Well, you can go. All right, so
You can find some that are
the
that are
Super
expensive.
Tuscan term is thrown around pretty liberally. I mean, you can find wines that are $10 that technically qualify as being a Super Tuscan. Is it? Do all Super Tuscans wear capes? Absolutely not. This one does, right? So then you can go all the way up to more famous, fabled estates like Sassicaia and Ornellaia, and these are the producers that helped pave the way in the movement. And those wines fetch $200 a bottle, but it doesn't mean to say that those aren't. You don't need to spend a ton of money basically to get a good Super Tuscan. And for me, I love that this comes from people that own tremendous property, have an amazing commitment to tremendous farming, and as a result of that, you end up with really good juice for a very modest
And
price.
I think another example for people who want to know, like, what does it taste like? The Super Tuscan here, it's a more focused profile. To me, it's a lower area tasting. It doesn't quite go to the upper palate. It stays to the lower palate, but it's a more focused flavor. So when you're tasting this particular one, everything I'm tasting is in the lower part of my mouth. I don't really get it up on the top. Now that's just me, but it's a focused flavor profile, which is soothing and smooth, and it's not overpowering. And it's another example, like most Italian wines, go great with food.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, Super Tuscan tastes like Bordeaux with a little bit of jamminess in there. Occasionally, like some iron qualities, which people hear iron. That's I don't want wine to taste like
you
iron. But
ironing
it's
your
a,
shirt? What are
but
you
it's
doing?
but it's a good quality. So I'm a fan of Super Tuscans.
Yeah. Tuscany's
This is
a
good.
cool spot.
And once again, I want to say another example of all these 3 wines that we just tasted will be at the event.
Yeah, they will.
So
Yep. So in addition to tasting these awesome wines, we're gonna have a boatload more. Like I said, I think we're at like 35 to 40 wines at this point, and it's gonna be a great night. And we've done everything from traditional minded estates all the way up to some new world stuff. So you're gonna run the gamut. If you're a fan of wine, you're gonna get something to scratch your itch at this event.
that's all that matters to us, right?
I like this.
Scratching that wine itch, that's right. Well, another thumbs up. And I gotta be honest with you, as we always say on the show, if I don't really like something,
Oh,
I
he'll
will
give me
tell
a
you.
thumbs down.
So I will tell you. I like
No punches
everything.
held here.
We've done
Everything we
sideways
taste.
thumbs.
Good. That's good.
And Sandy can tell you that I am not normally a big fan of South African wines, but
No.
that one did not taste
I
like
did not know that.
Band-Aids or the Tupperware plastic.
Well, you know what? I think you're specifically speaking to Pinotage, which can be a bit of a
Yeah,
disappointment.
sure
And
is.
I will agree with you that there
I'm
are
not a big
not
fan
nearly
of the
enough.
steam either.
Like every region, right? You think about it, right? Every major region tries to hang their hat on a grape variety, and I almost look at South Africa as producing far better Bordeaux varietals than they do Pinotage. But that's been the marketing agenda,
They
whether
seem
it's
to be
some
known for
government money
Pinotage.
behind it or whatever. But it just seems to me like they want to proclaim Argentina does Malbec, South Africa does Pinotage, and I'm like, pack up the Pinotage, pal.
Yeah.
You got.
It's hard to find a good Pinotage.
And-
When you do, they're good.
Well, right. So there's 1 in 10.
But they taste like Merlot.
Right, yeah.
So-
Right. 1 in 10.
So what is next here, Mr. G?
So what I was trying to build up towards, and hopefully you guys can see this, is that we've got old world, we've got new world, and then we've got, in my opinion, the future of a wine region, or at least that part of the world. This is Marietta. This is a 2nd generation property coming in and out of California. These guys are awesome. I love everything they do. And they're now into their 2nd generation where Scott is making the wines. He's taken over for his father. And I feel like, the second act is even stronger than the first, which, is not always the case in the wine business. That's usually where, batons can get dropped. And here he's done an amazing job transitioning the estate. And it's not a far departure from what his father's built. It's really a step further in that direction. And so this is Marietta's Game Trail 2015 Cabernet. Comes in from Yorkville Highlands up in Mendocino County.
Mendocino, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Southern Mendocino, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's just over the Alexander Valley.
Right, so you're still
You're
somewhat
practically
coastal.
Sonoma, but you're not. So
Yeah, exactly. You're still
you don't
somewhat
command
coastal.
those prices, but it's going to be good.
What I like about that whole spot is that you've got these great wines that have this amazing sense of Cabernet specifically, that have this amazing sense of fruit and ripeness, but they've got structure. Their acidities have been very well maintained, and I feel like this Game Trail perfectly showcases that. It's not all about the big, flabby, fleshy oak bombs that you can get down in Napa, and Marietta, makes some really nice and I'll call that style hedonistic style of wines, and they make those, but it's amazing.
that.
As lurid as their wines can be, they manage to come back to reality, and as much as he pushes the envelope, he'll pull it too.
Well, it's funny you should mention pushing the envelope because this is the first wine I've had tonight that the flavor profile keeps building after you've already
Yeah.
swallowed.
Yeah.
So there's still, I've swallowed the wine, there's still stuff going on
It just keeps
in my
going.
mouth, and it just
Yeah.
keeps going. And I think that's when we've talked about this so many times over the years, when you get a wine that's that good, it just keeps building after you
Yeah.
take your first drink. And that makes you want to go back to more.
Oh yeah.
And acidity is key. Drinking these big, rich, super full-bodied oak bombs of wines in Napa Valley are fun and thrilling for a glass or two. But then, if you want a quality quaffer, something that you could put down 3 glasses of at a dinner party, it's probably not going to be those big, bombastic, fleshy, oily oak
Yeah.
monsters. It's going to be wines like this. This is rich. It's not lacking with fruit. It's not lacking with body. It's not lacking with anything. But it's rich enough where it can deliver on a lot of those flavors, but then tidy enough where it knows to clean up after itself.
Yeah. Santa brought me a Corvin for Christmas, and I didn't open it. I Corvin a bottle of Petite Syrah that was out of Yountville, Napa Valley, and that's one of those wines, what you're talking about, that's just, it's so in your face. You can't sit there and drink a whole bottle of it. So I was drinking like half a glass at a time. Versus something out of Mendocino County like this, it's just an easy quaffer.
Yeah.
You can kill it by itself sitting on the couch, or you can have it with a meal. You don't see a lot out of Mendocino County, and I always like wines out of Mendocino County.
So I have to tell you, I don't normally like Cabernet, but I have had several Cabernets now on the show and at some of your tastings, and you always seem to bring something to the table that's a little bit different.
Thank you.
That makes me appreciate Cabernet.
That's cool.
We actually have one in our wine fridge from one of his tastings. That's just a little bit different.
That's cool. And then, to me, that's the name of the game, right? Like, there's so many, established great spots to get Cabernet from, and then there's also a lot of these cool places that just no one thinks of. And it's easy to understand why, to the point we were making earlier. Napa's a legend. Why wouldn't you want to drink Napa Cabernet, or at least be intrigued by it to want to try more than one bottle? But that doesn't mean that's the only place in California that it grows well.
Yeah.
Well, I got to say, 4 stars for everything we've been drinking tonight. I think my favorite for a red, obviously we've only had another one, is obviously the Game Trail. And, I told you guys when you come into the show, it goes by so fast. I think we have maybe 5 minutes left of the show. And I know we're all anxious to try the last one on the table.
We're going to
And
push your comfort zone because this is a sweet wine.
You are pushing my comfort zone.
So this is Alvear. This is their Pedro Jimenez de Añada 2013.
Oh, look at that.
This is a gorgeous style of dessert wine. So when we think of dessert wines, people go to some more traditional parts of the world, and they'll say, oh, let's have Sauterne, let's have port wine. This right here is, in my opinion, every bit the equal of those types of wines. And if you were to put this relative quality in those two zones, you'd be talking about a wine that would fetch well over $50, if not into the hundreds.
And how much is this one?
And so this is under $25.
Wow.
For a split bottle, it's a half a bottle, so it's not an entire bottle, but you'll find that there's a lot of that in dessert wine.
That's a 2013.
It is 2013, and it's Pedro Jimenez, which is a really cool varietal. There's about 3 grapes that are traditionally allowed in the production of sherry, and sherry can range from bright, crisp, salty, high acid white, very aromatic and oxidized, all the way to this style, which is my favorite style of sherry, which is dessert. Pedro Jimenez is the grape that goes into this exclusively, dried and straw mats. It's just this really nice sex in a glass type.
Yeah,
wine.
this is
We
is
talked.
sexy.
We talked earlier about the sex reference, and I said,
Yeah.
I don't normally use that, but
With wine.
wow, that is
Isn't that delicious?
something else. And Sandy knows I'm not a huge dessert wine.
What do you think of this?
This is something completely different.
Yeah?
This is foreplay in a bottle.
This
It's
is
better
what I
than
try to
foreplay in a
tell
bottle.
Rocky. You got to find the right dessert wine to go for your palate.
For sure.
This goes with your palate.
And people will tell you can drink Cabernet with chocolate. You really can't.
Yeah.
But this with
is unbelievable.
dessert.
With
a
creme
piece-
brulee?
Yeah, with a piece of cake,
Yeah.
pie, just phenomenal.
Yeah.
He just finished his glass.
I got to say,
You have a home run.
well, generally the thing with
That's my
dessert
English.
wines is I'm generally full when the dessert wines come out. If it's out for a nice dinner or you're having a dinner party, so I'm not really ready for any more alcohol when dessert comes. So generally I shy away from them. But this is a whole different category. This is silky. It's smooth. It's just unbelievable. It's probably one of the best dessert wines I've tasted And we've only done a few on the show in the 8 years I've been doing the show. That's absolutely spectacular. And what is the alcohol content on that?
So, this is not over the top. I want to say it's about 15 to 17. I want to say it's under 20 for sure.
That's unbelievable. And we got 3 minutes left in the show, and I just wanted to say that, we've tasted some great stuff tonight, and they're all different in their own ways. So you guys got to come check out this event because you're going to be blown away. I was blown away with these 5 bottles. You'll be blown away. So please, you got to come check out the event. So that is unbelievable. I can't keep saying it
I'm
enough.
glad it was a success.
I'm glad it was our last bottle
And
because that's
you know
how good
what?
it
There's
was.
going to be at least 5 more dessert wines for you to check out at this
Nice.
event. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in February 7th.
February 7th,
Right.
6 to 9 p.m. at the North House, and you can find tickets either at norcomcares.org, is it?
.org, yeah.
.org, or you can go
Got it
to the
queued up to
Facebook
read.
page, and you can just on Facebook look up Norcom Cares, and it's the first thing that'll pop up.
And I'll be posting some stuff on my webpage also, but we still have a little short time. I got to say, you got to hit me a little bit more with that last one. Just a
you got
tiny
it, dude.
So
splash.
if
Got
you
it.
want
See,
to
this
buy
is it.
this wine, where do you go?
Yes.
You go straight to Bottle Stop. We're at 260 West Main Street in Avon, right across the street from Russell Speeder's Car Wash. It is a really, really cool store, and I gotta say,
is a cool store.
for me, what makes it really fun is that you can have a huge selection. You can have every single bottle that's available in the marketplace in your selection, but for us, it's really about having every good bottle. That's kind of our slogan.
That's the key.
Right. So we're every good bottle, one great stop. So you check out our store. I think that you're going to love everything that we have and what we're about. And we're really consumer facing. We want to pop corks, have you taste things. We're not there to sell you on anything. We're really there to help you along your personal journey in wine, wherever that might be and however it might be.
Well, I want to thank my guests for coming in. You're going to have a successful event, and I want to thank all my viewers for watching over 8 years now. And Rocky and Sandy will probably be our regular host now because Jim is just too busy up in Boston. So I want to give an extra thanks to Rocky and Sandy for filling in.
Thanks for having me.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, click that you like us or subscribe to YouTube, and we'll give you updates on the latest show. So definitely press that like on YouTube. So thanks for watching, and until next time, keep all of us in your wine cellar.